It is a journey through the Bible with Mukhwana Isaac, and I want to thank you for moving with me and for keeping track. We want to thank God for the gift of life, for each and everything that He bestows on us. And it's a Monday. We want to thank Him for the gift of life, for the gift of a new week, and each and everything He continues doing in our lives. Today, I would love us to look at this man, Moses, as he lives his life, the death of Moses, and after that, we shall look at his character. Eventually, the Israelites, of course, reached the country opposite the river Jordan, just east of the town of Jericho. Moses left his people and went up to the top of Mount Nebo, from where he could see the promised land. And on this mountain, he died faithfully. You see, he died as a faithful servant of God and leader of his people. We read this in Deuteronomy chapter 34, verse 1 to 12. So Moses dies as a faithful servant of God, and he went there such that he may see the promised land, and he saw, but he didn't reach there. Now we see Moses as a man whom God had chosen to save his people and to teach them the religion which would be perfected in Christianity. Was not, of course, a good public speaker, as we saw in Exodus chapter 4 verse 10, as a leader of men. However, he has no equal other than Christ himself. Throughout his life, right from the time when he helped an enslaved fellow Hebrew until his last intercession for his people on nearing Canaan, Moses clearly loved his people. Now we are talking about Moses the late. Yes, because we need to summarize, and of course we are now giving talking about the good things, the strength of Moses, and what have you. It is very, very important. Moses remained humble in spite of all the favors God gave him. Can you imagine looking into the face of the eyes of the Lord, seeing the face of the Lord, having that one-on-one, face-to-face interaction? In spite all that, Moses remained humble. Actually, he felt unworthy of his position as leader, but faithfully carried out his duties and responsibilities. He never used his position for his own profit. There are people who are using offices this one of actually these days in a very bad way. I'm told, I hear people say that if you went to some offices, the person will tell you, if you want to be promoted, you are a woman. Wow, we have to have some affairs. That is when you'll get promoted. That is when you'll get a job. That is when you'll have this. In various communities, this kind of nonsense is ongoing. And when you read Numbers chapter 16 verse 15, this man Moses remained faithful. He was a man who loved his people. He was forgiving to those who revolted against his authority and interceded for them before God. When Moses interceded for people, he did not look at those who were only good. These people were giving him headache, but he interceded for them as a whole. He was deeply upset at not being allowed to enter the promised land, but he continued to do his duty. Remember, Moses knew. One time someone asked me that why did this man not enter the promised land? I think I'm now working on it. This man knew. God told him, because of what transpired one time. Yes, God gave him the instruction A, he did something else. He executed instruction B. So because of that, God told him, and he didn't end there. Yes, let's say If God told you that you are going to die tomorrow, or if God told you that you have only 1 month to die, you have money, your possession, and each and everything, how do you treat it? How do you behave? Sometimes people become so holy and start going to church. People having ailments, diseases that are going to do away with their life in the shortest time possible, as maybe they have discovered. They get back to God. Others, when they get money, they become so violent. So this man, in spite of all that, he even knew, but he continued leading these people until when he went to Nebo, looked, but he couldn't do much because the Lord had spoken. Yes, he was firm in correcting those who did wrongly. The greatest sorrow of his life was that he was always having to scold and correct his people, whom he loved so much that he was ready to sacrifice his life for them. Can you imagine? And so the people simply were not able to understand his religious greatness. He was alone in his greatness, just as he was alone at the time of death. The Bible says not even his remains can be traced. No one knows where his burial is. And so he was this man. Moses was the great prophet of the Old Testament. God spoke to him face to face, just as one speaks to a friend. We saw this in Exodus chapter 33 verse 11. He saw God's glory and entered as deeply into a mysteries of Godhead as it is possible for a mortal to do so. When Moses sinned by putting limits to God's patience at the rock of Meribah, God did not take away from Moses his love. He punished him, but continued to consider him as a friend. So Moses is actually, this man prefigured Christ as prophet, as lawgiver, as mediator, as intercessor, as a miracle worker, as a good shepherd, ready to lay down his life for those under his care. He suffered innocently like Christ in carrying out his vocation, receiving no human thanks in return for the offering of himself. As founder of the Old Covenant, Moses was privileged to appear at the transfiguration of Christ, the founder of the New Testament. We read this in the Gospel according to Mark chapter 9, the transfiguration, where Moses appears to represent the law, where Elijah appears to represent the prophets at the transfiguration. And that brings us to the end of today's episode, where we looked at Moses, his death, and his character. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. We link up tomorrow when we look at Israel entering the promised land. I have been Mukhwana Isaac with a journey through the Bible. Stay blessed.